Hello, we are from Group 9. We all want to present about the macroeconomy indicator, GDP and inflations that affect tourism industry. This is our teammate. First is Amirul Hakim Al-Hafiz, that me. Second is Siti Aisha. Third, Tanisha. And the fourth is Teyu.
A very good day to my respectful lecturer. Today I'm going to talk about the introduction of our project. So, macroeconomic is a branch of economics that deals with the performance, structure, behavior, and decision making of an economy as a whole, such as using interest rates, tax, and government spending to regulate an economy's growth and stability. Macroeconomics is also the subfield of economics that examines social aggregates on a national scale, such as employment, inflation, the balance of payments, and gross domestic product. For an instance, inflation, economic growth, GDP, and unemployment are some of the broad economic indicators covered. Economic policy and strategy at the national and corporate levels are developed with the aid of macroeconomic models. Therefore, our group decided to use inflation and gross domestic product growth as our macroeconomics indicator under the service sector for this project. In economics, inflation is defined as a rise in the price level across all commodities and services. Inflation is a decrease in the purchasing power of money because a higher general price level means that one currency unit can buy fewer products and services. Inflation is typically measured by the annualized percentage change in a general price index, sometimes known as the inflation rate. The Consumer Price Index, CPI, is frequently employed for this purpose due to the fact that household prices do not all grow at the same rate. Nevertheless, worth of a country's final commodities and services, as determined by the market, is its gross domestic product (GDP) for a certain time period. The government of a single nation typically uses GDP as an indicator of that nation's economic well-being. This metric is complex and subjective, thus it is often changed before it can be used as an accurate gauge. Purchasing power parity (PPP), GDP per capita can be more useful when comparing living standards between countries, while nominal GDP is more useful when comparing national economies on the international market because it accounts for differences in the cost of living and inflation rates of the countries. Each economic sector or industry's share of total GDP can be calculated. The per capita GDP, also known as the mean standard of living, is the regional GDP divided by the regional population.
Hi, my name is Siti Aisha binti Muhammad Hanif Lizat. My metric number is AP220226. Okay, I want to present about the effect of macroeconomic indicator, which is gross profit domestic (GDP) quarter of 2032. Gross domestic product (GDP) is a measure that tells us how well a country's economy is doing. It shows the total value of goods and services produced in the country. In the first quarter of 2032, Malaysia's GDP in the services sector, which includes things like tourism, transportation, entertainment, grew by 6.5%. This was a higher growth compared to the previous quarter, indicating that the services sector was doing better. The second quarter of 2032 saw even stronger growth, with GDP in the services sector increasing by 12.0%. This was mainly because of the growth in tourism, which brings in money, creates jobs, and helps the economy grow. However, too much growth can sometimes lead to higher prices, so policymakers need to be careful. The third quarter of 2022 had a significant acceleration in economic activity, with GDP in the services sector growing by 16.7%. This was a good sign for the services sector, especially tourism. It suggests that the services sector, including tourism, performed well during this period. In the fourth quarter of 2022, GDP growth decreased to 8.9%. This could be due to factors like seasonal patterns. Last quarter of 2022 tourism activity tend to decrease because of things like bad weather or fewer people traveling during the holiday season. This can affect the overall GDP growth, especially in countries that depend on tourism. Overall, higher GDP growth generally means the economy is doing well, while lower growth can indicate challenges or slowdowns in specific sectors. It's an important indicator of a country's economic health.
Okay, today I would like to present about the inflation rate and effect for the tourism industry in quarterly 2022. So for the inflation rate fall to 22.2% in the first quarter 2022 compared to the previous quarter 2021. This because effect from the lower domestic retail fuel price last year. So this resulted in the lower transportation cost for the tourism. As as a result, price for flight, rental car, and the other transportation have a decrease. In the second quarter of 2022, we can see that the increase of inflation rate to 2.8% compared to the first quarter in 2022. The high cost pressure due to the ongoing military crisis in the Ukraine, unaffordable weather condition in the important food exporting, and a higher US dollar were all major contributors. The disruptions in the global supply network because of the military crisis or unaffordable weather, so the price of those inputs may rise. This can affect increasing price for the food that used in the hotel, restaurant, and other tourism activity. The inflation increased sharply in the third quarters of 2022, which is from 2.8% to 4.5%. The inflation rate for the rental costs is grow. This can impact the housing and the lodging costs. So for the tourism industry, if the price rise in rental costs, it can lead to the higher price for the hotel, vacation retails, and other lodging options, and also make a traveling particular destination more expensive. For the last quarter in 2022, the inflation dropped to the 3.9% compared to the previous. This because the predicted lapse in the base effect of electricity inflations, and also drop in the commodity price. Also, the inflation for core food like fresh meat and egg reduced during the quarter. So we can affect the demand for the tourism service will be increased, and the tourism industry might experience the greater revenue. So this is the effect from the tourism industry for the in the inflation rate in 2022 quarterly in Malaysia.
As the conclusion of this report, we can see that macroeconomics indicator can give helpful information on the general health and performance of the economy. Economic indicators are used by analysts to examine existing and anticipate financial and potential. The analysis of these indicators aim for the governments, company, and individuals in making good decisions. There are several approaches to managing macroeconomic indicators such as employment, inflation, and so on. Method to reduce these indicators includes tax cuts and refund from the government to the people, as well as improvement in business and technology. The government can also increase capital supply, personal saving, and productivity to reduce inflation. Finally, resolving macroeconomic challenges necessitate a diverse strategy involving a number of policy activities. The effectiveness of this method is dependent on the scenario and the type of issue. Policymakers can use a combination of monetary, fiscal, and supply-side policies to achieve stable economic growth, low inflation, and decrease in employment rates. And that's all from the Group 9. Thank you.